Alright guys, coming to you from the mighty Midwest. What's going on? Today it's been cold, man. It's starting to warm up a little bit. But let's talk about the Federal Reserve and the chaos they're creating. Oh my goodness. It doesn't matter what they do. I mean, one decision is going to affect others in another way. You know, you've got to think about these things. And the New York Post has an article, I'll put a link below, that nearly 200 banks are at the same or at risk for the same thing that happened to Silicon Valley Bank. And it says they did a report that 186 banks across the country could fail if half of their depositors took money out. And that is based on a study that was done by the Social Science Research Network. And that even includes insured depositors who have under $250,000. You got to realize that the FDIC, yes, even though they may have insurance on money under $250,000, I mean, if that many banks fail, they don't have enough money to cover all those people. They just have a fraction of that money. So, man, you know, I've been telling people for a long time that you need to become your own central bank, and what that entails is holding some real assets like gold and silver, having a strong line of credit so you can get credit, even though I'm not using credit anymore at all. So gold and silver really seem to be the proper answer here. And for those who like the Bitcoin, I'm just not a fan of that for several factors. Probably the biggest factor is if the grid goes down and you have no electricity, how are you going to use it, you know? So it just hasn't been around for thousands of years like gold and silver. And basically what happened was, according to this article, is that, which it makes sense, is that these banks were buying investments in government bonds and mortgage-backed securities. And so as interest rates went up, as the Federal Reserve hiked the rates, then the value of those investments dropped. And in some cases, over half. And so what's happening is when these banks have liquidity issues, they're like, okay, well, these are our investments, the government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, so let's sell those. And then they're showing a loss because they're selling those off at less than what they paid for them to make up for the shortfall that they need to come up with from all the money going out of the bank. Because sure, people are working, but you know, they're not working as much as they used to. I mean, in my own business, I was fluctuated out of over at least $65,000 by the Federal Reserve's actions last year. And then if you've got somebody, let's say in manufacturing, and they're only working 3 days a week, and what's happening is people may see the job numbers going up, but that's just because everybody's, you know, applying for a new job, so they got 2 and 3 jobs to make up for what they didn't have. What's interesting is even now Warren Buffett is calling for investigation into the Federal Reserve and their policies. So there's some real movement here to see what can be done to look into the Federal Reserve, and let's see if we can do this better. I would say there are some needs that the Federal Reserve should exist. However, there should be a different way that they make their decisions, and they should be more transparent with their ownership. I mean, who owns the Federal Reserve? I heard it's shareholders. Who are the shareholders? We don't know. So at any rate, you know, talking about inflation, one thing that the Federal Reserve could have done, or the Treasury, United States Treasury, whoever makes the rules, they could have just said to the banks, look, we're going to require you to prove that you have 1% reserve in the bank, you know, to increase liquidity. And so basically that would keep them from lending out as much money, and the rates wouldn't have had to go up as much. Just food for thought from somebody from the mighty Midwest who I guess doesn't know much, doesn't know more than these banksters there at the Federal Reserve. I'm glad they're doing good, and I'm glad they decided not to cut their salaries, even though they've cut salaries of Americans all over the U.S. and the world and caused chaos. So anyways, just I'll put a link below to this article. Check it out. And at the side of this article, on the left-hand side, you'll see where Warren calls for probe of Federal Reserve System after Silicon Valley Bank implosion. So if you have anything to comment or mention, please like, comment below, and let's have a conversation on how we can possibly have this system of the Federal Reserve run better, done differently. Over and out from the mighty Midwest. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell, and we'll be sure to be notified when you get videos, and we can have a conversation and go from there. Have a good day.